Here are the 5 biggest mistakes that I see new real estate photographers making that quietly kill your business. And when I say quietly kill, what I mean is they're mistakes that have a hidden cost, meaning they're mistakes of things you didn't do that you should have done that if you did would have you a much bigger business than you have today. And so I wanna show you these because I think these are the most dangerous kind of mistakes. Some of them you may know, some of them you probably don't, but either way, it's just a good reminder to remember these things, because when I was building my photography business, if you think about point A where you are and point B where you want to be, there's going to be a fastest path between those 2 points, right? But what happens is instead of just going directly from point A to point B, people go like over here, back over here, back over here, and they do things pretty slowly. And that kills the future of your business, because if you could have just gone straight from point A to point B, you'd be a lot further. And so I wrote down the 5 biggest ones here. I'm gonna go through them one by one. And the first one is pretty basic, so stay with me if you're like, duh, Eli, but people spend way too much time on getting gear and working with gear and process and workflow instead of just getting clients. Like I wrote down here below that you don't need the perfect camera, you need people paying you to use it. And obsessing over gear is procrastination in disguise, right? And what that means is, it's pretty straightforward, I think, but like I wish someone would have just jammed it into me when I was first starting, which is you think that prepping and learning gear and workflows and that sort of thing better is moving your business forward. But the reason you feel the need to know so much about that is because you don't feel like you're good enough to properly grow the business, or you feel like if you get better, the business will grow. And that's just not true. Those things aren't correlated. The best photographers that let me rephrase, the wealthiest photographers, the photographers I know that make the most money are usually not the best photographers. They're not the best videographers. They're not the best whatever. What they are really good at is figuring out what their customer, in our case as real estate media business owners, real estate agents, builders, those kind of people, like the people that really make money are good at figuring out what their clients need. Not thinking internally, hey, what could I get better at? It's like, hey, what should I put time into my clients would care about? And so in this business, it's a couple things. One, you have to actually get the clients in the first place. So it's spending time reaching out and making yourself known, because it's really the best photographer, the best known photographer that wins, not the best photographer, right? So number one is you have to make yourself known to people so that when a real estate agent in your area has a photo shoot, they at least know your name, right? Because they don't know your name, they can't call you. So that's number one. Number two is giving them a reason to keep using you. And that's, sure, you have to have decent enough photos, videos, that kind of stuff. But anything past that is wasted. In fact, it might work against you because it may make the process take longer, and real estate agents don't like that, or it may make it so you have to spend more time doing the process than reaching out to new clients, right? And so the biggest thing is if you're spending your time on anything like internal to your business's process, especially when it comes to photo shoot process, by process I mean gear, settings, workflows. If you're working on efficiency or on systems and stuff, that's great. But like, hey, is this lens gonna take my business forward is never a winning combo. All right, moving on to number two, you're trying to build a perfect portfolio before you start. And a couple notes I wrote down here. I personally spent way too long doing this. I made a special trip to Austin to shoot a family member's house that had a nice property. I stayed there for a couple days, waste of a couple days. I didn't need a $4 million house for my portfolio. I needed any houses that I could shoot in my area, and I didn't need them in the portfolio. I needed them to be paid to me to shoot, right? And so instead of spending those couple days, and that's just one example of it, people do it, I did it more times than that, and people do it a lot worse than that, it's just the idea of like, hey, the most valuable thing for my business is to go find this expensive house and shoot it so I have a nice portfolio, and that didn't actually move the business forward, right? And I think there's a couple of reasons people do that. One, you feel like if you have a great portfolio of expensive houses, people are gonna be like, oh, I'll trust this guy to shoot this house. Which is true a little bit, but they can't trust you to shoot the house. They don't know who you are. And so it goes back to if you're just working on internal stuff like your portfolio, it doesn't matter because no one sees that portfolio anyway. But the other thing that's a hidden cost, but a real cost is a lot of people build these really nice portfolios. They put like all their super luxurious shoots in there, right? All the nicest houses they've ever done. If I'm a realtor and I go look at your portfolio, probably won't even see it. But if I do see it, I'm like, oh, this person just shoots luxury. This $400,000 house, I'll get another guy. This must be overpriced for this. I don't need that. That's not what you want, right? And so number two, don't try to build a perfect portfolio before you start. Number three, mistake that I made, all of these are mistakes that I made, but a big one is you're underpricing your work thinking it'll get you more clients. So here's a couple notes I wrote for this one. Charging $100 less than you need to, it doesn't make you competitive. It just makes you have less margin. less profit. And profit is what scales your business. The more profit you have, the healthier your business. So charging $100 less doesn't make you more attractive to a group of real estate agents. In fact, it actually makes you less attractive as a business to the group of agents you most want to serve. And it makes you more attractive to the bottom 10% of agents that are the cheap ones. They're usually the picky ones. They'll nickel and dime you. You don't want that. And so if you're looking at, the market is here. There's the top 10% of the market. These are agents, not in terms of volume. We're talking about they list the top 10% of the most expensive homes in the area. And then with the bottom 10% of agents that don't really do anything. They list really cheap homes. They don't do much business. The most money is made in that middle 80%. And a lot of people mess that up because the top 10% is intoxicating as an ideal. Like, oh, I want to work and I want to shoot these luxury homes and I want to work with these like well-known agents. Like the biggest real estate media companies out there, they don't really care about that. Sure, they'll get those clients. In terms of the top 10%, they'll get the clients that do a ton of volume and a ton of shoots because they know that they get paid per shoot. But the ones that chase the most expensive homes often don't have the biggest businesses. And they have generally the least scalable businesses because if you get yourself into a luxury niche, it's just harder to scale. It's not impossible, but that's why you see a lot of solo operators that shoot those luxury homes because agents are like, that's the person I want to work with. I don't want people to want to work with me, right? I want people to use my business because I'm trying to build a business. And so that's number 3, you're underpricing your work thinking it'll get more clients. Number 4 is you're doing everything yourself. Shooting, editing, messaging clients, booking shoots, responding to edit requests. What a lot of people do wrong is their way of growing their business is by basically becoming an octopus and having like 8 arms. And they add arms via assistants. Sometimes you get a couple of virtual assistants, but they're still the core of the business. And what that means is that every process goes through them. So it's like edit request comes through them, gets sent to editor, comes back through them, gets sent to client. So they're the core. What you want to build is a workflow where processes don't need you specifically to be involved. So for example, if it used to be edit request is sent to you by the client, you're the center here, you send it to the editor to fix, the editor sends it back to you, and then it goes back to your client. I'm not saying you should connect your client and your editor directly, but you could have someone on your team, an admin, an assistant, something like that, be the link so you're not involved. Now that's a little bit more advanced if you're just starting, you don't have to worry about that. But what you can worry about when you're just starting are the ones that you want to outsource from day one, which would be like photo and video editing. You shouldn't even learn those, is my opinion on this. If you spend time learning photo and video editing, you're taking away from learning things or doing things that would be more valuable to your business. So one thing that's just really important to keep in mind is kind of that small business owner mentality of like, if I need it done right, I have to do it. That is absolutely something that will kill. That's a mentality that will kill the future of your business. And it's not true. It's ego driven. It's got pride involved. It's all the stuff you don't want to be associated with, but people say it like it's a badge of honor. Well, if I want it done, I got to do it myself. It's like, no, you just don't have the skills to properly delegate yet. You need to build those skills just like you built other skills. And so my challenge to you, this is a more beginner or starting oriented video. Don't ever learn to edit. Don't think, hey, I need to learn to edit in a pinch because what if my editor falls through? Instead of saying, what if my editor falls through? What about just finding a backup editor, right? Because there's always more you can do in your business and there's always work to be done in the business, but the businesses that grow the fastest, what they look for is the highest leverage work. So rather than saying, I'm gonna learn this so that if it happens, I can do it, it's like, what about if this happens? How can I get someone in place to do that so it doesn't require my time? So outsource from day one. Number 5 is you're letting fear run your business. And you maybe heard that and you're like, no, that's not true. Like skip the mindset, but hear me out for a second because I think it's really important. Fear is masked in logic most of the time, I would say. And if you really think about it, you can, kind of get back to the core of it, but it's like the things we talked about already. Why do people spend a lot of time building a portfolio? Because they fear that if a client sees their work and it's not luxury homes, they won't be trusted. But it's not a true thing. It's just they think that might happen, right? And that's an example of fear. Why do they spend a lot of time practicing their workflow and what cameras they're using and researching new gear and figuring out different file types and other things they could do? Because they don't feel like their work is good enough yet, or they're worried it's not going to be, and so they think they need to work on that before they work on the thing that's actually going to grow their business, right? And why do they not reach out to clients sooner? I recommend when you're first starting your business, like one of the first things you should do, sure, you want to have a basic understanding of how to shoot real estate, but companies that grow really quick are good at launching it and figuring out after. So like what that means in this business is you can have done one practice shoot, that's all. You've done one practice shoot and you start reaching out to clients and trying to book, offer a first shoot free and try to get a client to book you in. Because what happens too is like, one, that's the actual action that moves the business forward, right? Like the reaching out and booking the shoot, that's what actually starts the business. All the other stuff is preparation that doesn't need to be done right now. And I know you're thinking you prep before you do it. Sure, but what people do if they don't have a deadline on the prep is they drag it out to be years. And in some cases they give up. I'd give up if I was going years without getting paid, right? And so preparation actually prevents you from getting where you want to go. And so my strategy and what I'd recommend doing is reaching out first. And then you're gonna have a client be like, yes, John, I would love to take you up on that free shoot. It's when I'm filming this, what day of the week is it? It's Thursday today. And John says, can you be there on Monday at 9 a.m.? And you say, yes, absolutely. Well, now it's Thursday and you have until Monday. Guess who's gonna figure it out and be ready by Monday at 9 a.m.? You. But guess who wouldn't have done that if you didn't have the shoot Monday at 9 a.m.? You would still be in the same position of like, oh, let me practice a little bit more this week. But in those two scenarios, scenario one where you did the shoot, by Monday you have a client. You've done a shoot, your business is miles ahead, and the other business is still prepping, right? And so you have to be very, very careful to not let fear impact your business. And the key thing to figure out, took me way too long to figure out, but it's like anything you're scared of in your business, that's usually the bullseye of what you need to do. The thing you're most scared of. And so if it sucks because you don't want to be fearful, but it's just a part of it. Like you're going to be fearful with everything, with anything, right? We all have fear. It's normal. It's a human thing. So it's like, if I'm thinking and I'm trying to start my business, like what's the scariest thing I could do? It's reach out to a client, right? That's also happens to be the best thing that you could do. And then you do that shoot and you deliver the photos. What's the scariest thing to do at that point? To ask what they thought. Because you don't want to hear if it was bad, right? But what's the most important thing you can hear for your business? You can hear if it was good or bad. If it's great, you're like, awesome, right? Then you do that. What's the next scariest thing you can do? Well, for most people, it's asking for a referral, but that's probably exactly what you should do. Hey, Sarah, I just did this shoot. I know you said everything turned out great. I'm really looking to get a couple more clients to really launch this business. Like, is there anybody that I should be working with? Just ask that. It's a great question. It kills it, by the way. So just literally steal that. They're going to give you a name. You're going to call that person. Hey, I just talked to, my name's John. I just talked to Sarah. I shot this listing she has over here for you, and she recommended I reach out to you to offer you some real estate photos. Like, hey, do you have any listings right now that you need reshot? I'd be happy to do it for free. Or do you have any upcoming? No, none upcoming right now. Cool, well, I'll check back in a couple weeks. Like, that was the next scariest thing, right? And so if you use that as an indicator, what people do is they avoid fear, and that's shooting in the exact wrong direction. Fear is the bullseye, and so lean into that. So those are my 5 mistakes that I see people having their businesses quietly killed by all the time. And so if you could just reverse engineer and avoid those, even if you literally write them down, like I took some time to put those together because those are literally what I see stopping people. Sometimes they're masked a little bit better, but I want you to think of everything you're doing in your business and run them through that filter. Like, is this any one of these mistakes just in a different costume? Because if it is, and you identify it, that's how you move your business forward. There's a link below in the description. It should be replaunch.com/apply. Click on that and book a call with my team if you haven't yet. We'll tell you a little bit more about our launch coaching program, which is it's how we launch your business with you, right? So if you're someone that believes in learning from the mistakes of others and not making all of your own mistakes, I wasn't that at the start, and that's one of my biggest regrets because it took me way too long to get my business going. Like what I did in years, a lot of people in our program do in months or even in some cases in weeks. And so if you're someone that you want to make this happen quickly. And I always say quickly, and I think some people are like, oh, I don't need to be quick. But the problem with taking things too slow is a lot of people give up before they get there if the results don't happen soon enough. And so I'd encourage you, if you haven't talked to my team or you have, book in with them. If you've talked to my team, text your person on my team and be like, hey, I'm ready to do it. Get into coaching. We'd love to work with you, and I'll see you inside.